Welcome to this CEO webinar today. Special webinar for all our representatives. And before we start getting into the topic, how do I recognize true PEMF systems? How do I expose cheap and useless PEMF copycats? Just some side notes. We will, of course, record the webinar and we will upload it into your back office for all the people who cannot attend today. And yes, I muted all of you because otherwise it would be a little bit chaos if everybody would have the sound on. The format is always the same. I will go through my presentation, and afterwards you will have the chance to put your questions in the chat, and then we share it with everybody, and I try to answer it verbally here over the microphone. So it looks like that everybody can hear me, which is quite nice. I prepared a little bit of a presentation, which will guide you through today's topic of our webinar. And it's a quite delicate topic because I choose this idea of sharing some insights with you because more and more PEMF systems appear specifically in on the internet. And unfortunately, the whole topic gets a little bit out of control in terms of which kind of claims certain companies make, the origin of certain systems are quite, I would say, interesting where they come from. And obviously, we also have to speak about some very, very serious stuff, which is mostly related to product safety and product compatibility. We have a lot of PEMF manufacturers who are lacking compliance. So the whole thing is getting quite yeah, there's a lot of fog in the whole market of PEMF right now, and the goal of today's webinar is to educate you a little bit, to make you aware of what's going on with all these competitors. Like I said, specifically companies who are very, very professional and very good in online marketing, which is nowadays, it influences people because if people hear about PEMF, usually what they do, they go on Google and they try to find answers on their questions, and that's usually where the problem starts. So let's go into that topic, and let's start with slide number one. The headline is PEMF and an anecdotal history. So what does that mean? Well, basically, I would like to give you a little bit of an idea what happens right now on the World Wide Web when it comes to PEMF. I call it an anecdotal history. So what does anecdotal history mean by definition? It comes from the Old Greek language, and the term anecdote is derived from it, and it's the original word is anecdoton and means not published. So why I'm saying this? Because PEMF is science. PEMF is applied physics, and therefore, if I say not published, it means for me that that information about PEMF are not validated. And therefore, it is very, very difficult for lay people who don't understand the background of PEMF to easily determine which systems are good, which systems are not so good, which system are even harm you, and so on and so on. So in everyday language, an anecdote is the oral or written description of a curious, unusual, or strange event without any reliable or evidence-based reference. And usually the authors of such everyday anecdotes, similar to jokes, are often unknown. And this is exactly what's going on with PEMF since it became so popular amongst people, specifically in the holistic healthcare field, that more information are appearing on the World Wide Web, which are not validated anymore, which are simply wrong, which are oftentimes misleading, and which have no evidence-based reference. And this is a development which is quite scary, because it's very simple to manufacture a PMF device. Actually, you sit now in front of your computer, or you sit in front of your smartphone or your iPad. So by definition, you literally sit in front of a PMF device, because every electric device is emitting a magnetic field, electromagnetic field. And therefore, by definition, even a computer, an iPad or a smartphone would be a PMF device. But we all know, because we are Swiss Bionic reps and we have a very good education, that this kind of PMF device does not create any beneficial effect. So in order to understand the difference between a simple existence of a PMF signal and an eventual beneficial effect, that's what we have to look into. And that's where already a lot of so-called PMF systems are lacking, because they expose a field which, and that's the bad story about it, which is not verified, which is not validated, and which you don't even find any information on the web except some nice numbers about frequency or maybe intensity levels. And they also tell you that they have built-in copper coils. And in fact, they come out with numbers which have no relationship to each other. And they also tell you they have the best coils built in, but they never show you how the coils look like. So there is a lot of misleading things going on. And therefore, I call it an anecdotal history. This, by the way, is a perfect example of an anecdotal history. I call it the famous Werner Heisenberg quote. And you can go online, you will find this on many, many websites of PMF suppliers or manufacturers. This wonderful quote, which is online since the internet exists, where Werner Heisenberg once said, electromagnetic energy is the fundamental energy upon which all living organisms depend. And the interesting thing about this quote is Werner Heisenberg never said this. And how do I know that? Well, I met his son, who is still alive, by the way. He has, I think, 3 or 4 sons. I think he had 7 or 8 children. And 2 of the sons are also a physics professor. And I met one of his sons on a conference, on a convention, and I asked him, because even us, we were using this quote, I think, until 2010 or 2011, because we did the same mistake, and we applied the same wrong concept, what a lot of companies and a lot of people who are involved in the PMF field nowadays practice, and that just copy something from somewhere and utilize this information for their own benefit. And the son of Mr. Heisenberg, who was in fact a Nobel laureate, but he told me, my dad never said something like this. Maybe he said something about electromagnetic fields, but it was mostly in the context of something else. But he definitely never said this sentence as it is displayed now all over the World Wide Web on a global scale. So, what I want to tell you with this is just be careful when you read something about a specific topic. Of course, in our case now we talk about PMF, because this is the business we are in. Then, don't tend to believe everything what you read there, because you can only believe in something if it is validated or verified. If there is a a source, a reference to it, but it's definitely applying to the Werner Heisenberg quote because he never said that. So if you have this still on a website you are running or hosting, I would highly advise you to delete this because it's false information and it's misleading, you know. And in professional terms, something like that is called a so-called second-hand quotation or a blind quotation. So somebody who wants to publish something adapts a quotation in this case from somewhere else blindly. So without even actually having checked whether this quotation comes from or it ever exists, and more importantly also whether it fits in terms of content or origin. And forget about this famous quote, because electromagnetic energy is the fundamental energy upon which all living organisms depend. There's nothing wrong with this sentence because I'm a strong believer in this, but you know, it's just not a famous quote from a Nobel laureate, and it's definitely not from Dr. Heisenberg. So this is a perfect example of anecdotal history about PEMF. So what's happening is, if you know, people tend to accept unverified information and facts, specifically when we talk about the online world. It is somehow established and nobody questions this anymore. So I receive emails on a daily basis where people say, yeah, I saw on a website of a PMF manufacturer that they use this and this kind of frequency, this and this kind of intensity, and you have only this or this. Why is it like that? First of all, I always have to check where does this claim come from. Then what I usually do, I check the website if I have a reference. Sometimes I have not even a reference, and then I can guess where I have to find this information. But if I have a reference, you know, I'm gonna check these references, and in 90% of all cases, it's the delivered information or the delivered complaint about this system is much better than yours. It does not even relate to anything comparable in terms of validated or verified information. And that makes the whole thing really difficult. And that's where we are right now, you know. The established behavior of sharing and altering information by copy and paste. And now comes the worst part of all, because people don't just copy and paste. No, they always put their personal touch on top of it. And that alters information, that alters content, you know, because what people do is they tell you, we build in this frequency and this frequency, and on top, we do this and this and this. So that creates chaos when it comes to verifiable information, you know, and that's why it's so difficult for people to find reliable and verified information online, specifically in all holistic health related topics, and of course in our case also on PMF, you know. And at the end, that is what PMF represents nowadays. I summarized it in one sentence: a still controversial, questionable topic among science and classical medicine. Why? Because even science and classical medicine, beside all the libraries of medicine, they of course also do their research on the World Wide Web. And because the informational content on the World Wide Web is so controversial, is so non-compliant, is so weird, and is full of misleading information and false facts, classical medicine and science does not entirely and comprehensively believe in the effects of PMF. And whereas for lay people, everything sounds so perfect when you read websites of certain PMF companies, because certain companies, they claim stuff which you think that's going to be a miracle cure, you know? And that makes it very difficult to position us as a company who is designing, developing, inventing, and of course also manufacturing true PMF devices. And true PMF means we work on the principle of physics, you know, and we apply everything what physics provides us, looking at what kinds of studies are done, you know, basic studies about PMF, what kind of physical possibilities we have to create a pure beneficial therapeutic PMF field. And we will go into that a little bit deeper. What does that mean? How this field needs to look like to become a beneficial therapeutic, validated and verified PMF field. You know, that creates a lot of curiosity and confusion among the people, and at the end, the essence of PMF is completely misrepresented and nowadays, and we can only detect all this and filter out the good things from the bad things if we, you know, elevate our education level. Because like I said, PMF is applied physics, and applied physics mean that you need to at least understand the basic physical principles of a pulse electromagnetic field. And this is something most of the people don't understand. That's why it's so important. So, in fact, PMF, and I mentioned that already, is nothing else than 100% applied physics. So, what I want to tell you with this is that a PMF device is comparable to a competitive device, but only if all physical information, specs, software, hardware, coil structure, applied waveform, intensity spectrum, frequency spectrum, only if all this is disclosed, then we can compare it. Unfortunately, 95% of all PEMF manufacturers nowadays, specifically the ones who are offensively marketing online, they do not disclose these information, and therefore they are not comparable. And PMF per se is a measurable and verifiable application method, which is 100% based on scientific principle and also on obvious facts. And therefore, like I said, everything is comparable as long as it's disclosed. But we are one of the very, very less companies who disclose everything. We disclose our coil structure. We show pictures how the coils look inside. We disclose our waveforms. We disclose our frequency spectrum. We disclose our organ clock content. We more or less disclose everything so that, in fact, every person who has a little bit of experience in electronics, who has experience in physics, could eventually even manufacture a IMRS Prime or a Omnium One system from Swiss Bionic Solutions. Well, there are other things which makes it really complicated, but that's not part of the today's webinar. But what I want to tell you is that we are very transparent when it comes to what we give into people's hands, because they need to know with what they deal, because it's for their health. So it is for me, or for us as the company, it's an ethical an ethical basic rule. You know, we have to tell and disclose to the people what we give into their hands so that they know what they are doing. You know, the problem is lay people usually don't understand physics, and don't take that wrong, because I'm in this business since 30 years. You know, I, I, I was reading the law of induction 55,000 times, and there is still 20% which I still don't understand how it's work and why it's working. And even the best physicians in the world tried to explain it to me. I, I still didn't grasp it all because it's complex. It's very, very difficult to understand. It's very comprehensive. So it's not easy, you know? And that's why, because most of the people don't understand, it is very easy to deceive people and to mislead them with incoherent information, because it's very simple to just claim something, and words are patient, we say in German. So you can write what you can write whatever you want, and you can give access to whatever you go on to publish. Most of the people, they believe what they read, specifically within the fields and topics which they have no clue about. And PEMF definitely belongs to that group of topics, because it is so complex and it is so difficult to understand the physics behind it. So how can we approach the truth? So how can we educate ourselves, and how can we find out and figure out to differentiate between a true PEMF device and one of these or all of these many fake devices, and even threatening devices which are on the market nowadays? So the only thing, I mentioned it already, is creating and performing an objective and verifiable comparison of physical, mechanical, and electronic properties. Because all these three parts are basically involved in the development and in the operation of a PEMF device. And if you look at the comparison sheets which are online right now, people always ask me, why you don't publish a comparison between you and the competitor with the letter B and the letter C and the letter whatsoever. I said, because it's just not validated information, not because of us, because we can disclose all of these properties which we apply, but the competition doesn't do it. And I cannot collect all the information I need to make a transparent and a objective comparison sheet, because the information is not there. Either the coils are missing, because a lot of companies, they work with just mesh wire, which you cannot compare with a solid copper coil. Sorry, it does not work. It's law of induction. You know, an insulated mesh wire has about 10% of the induction property of a uninsulated solid copper coil with a thick diameter of the structure, and that's just incomparable, because it doesn't work. Even if you apply the same intensity inside this coil, it doesn't mean that you get out of it the same intensity. So, because the induction, which is the transfer of the force from the coil to the body, this is the crucial parameter which we have to work with in order to create a beneficial effect. And sometimes you need a very, very low intensity, but you need a high induction rate, and then you have a perfect result with transporting a PEMF field from the sender to the receiver. But if you work with the wrong coil, it just doesn't work. You can even apply the same frequency, the same intensity, and even the same waveform. So you can only compare apples with apples, and not apples with cucumbers or apples with bananas. And this is what's happening in the PEMF world online. Everybody is comparing just sheer numbers. You know, the IMRS prime has only 0.5 to 25 hertz. I read this many, many times, which is total BS, because it's just simply not true. Because if you have a carrier frequency of 0.5 to 25 hertz, and you apply this carrier frequency through a copper coil with, for example, a square wave pattern, then you have all the even harmonics. So you have suddenly frequencies, they go up to 30, 40 kilohertz. And then it's just simply not true anymore what they compare with. If I have a sawtooth waveform, then you have the even and the uneven harmonics. So you go up in the lower kilohertz. So you end up, if you would do a Fourier analysis of this whole signal, ending up with finding frequencies 25, 30 kilohertz. But because they evolve from a pure and harmonic carrier frequency, even if they are so high, they are still beneficial because they evolve from a very low natural frequency as a harmonics. And this is something nobody talks about because 90% of the competitor, they don't even know what I'm talking about right now because they don't care about this. Most of the people who, or the companies who nowadays offer PMF devices on the web, they don't manufacture it themselves. They buy it from somewhere. They buy it from a manufacturer. They again rely on the information which they get from this manufacturer, which mostly are not verified and not validated. And that's why there is no comparison sheet from Swiss Bionic, because it makes absolutely no sense. A comparison of a PMF device without having knowledge about physics and without having all properties of all competitive devices on the table, black and white, validated and verified, then we can speak. As long as this doesn't happen, a comparison sheet has a value of nada, zero. And this, sorry, but this information has to go out. And this is why we cannot tolerate something like that, because like I said, we are not a company comparing apples with bananas. It's just not happening, you know? And here are the properties. And this is something you need to learn. We record this webinar today, and I would appreciate it if you really digest this, what you're gonna hear today about how you're gonna define a beneficial PMF device, a safe PMF device, and a PMF device which is based and backed up by science and which gives you a transparent overlook of everything what it exposes. And here are the properties. We have the waveform. This belongs to physics. We have the intensity and the frequency, all physics. We have the mechanics, the coils, the applicator architecture. How are the coils placed? You know, is the electromagnetic field emitting with equal intensity? Or with our whole body mat, for example, we have 6 coils divided in 3 pairs, each with a different amount of windings. Different amount of windings means physically, if you run current through a copper coil with less windings, the exposed electromagnetic field is less intense. If you add more windings, or the more windings you add, the more intense the magnetic field becomes. And also because the surface increase of the copper coil, the higher and the better the induction rate. So the induction rate is how much of the signal you expose from the coil will arrive at the receiver, which is our body. And this induction rate is probably the most crucial property of all PMF devices, because this is the physical part where the force will be carried from the sender to the receiver. And then also very important, what kind of electronics are built in a PMF device. Specifically, if look inside, if there is even a pulse or a frequency generator built in. What kind of operating system the system use? Does it even have its own operating system? I can tell you from the bottom of my heart that 90% of all PEMF devices nowadays, they have not a pure built-in pulse generator. And what this means for your PEMF device, that I will show you later on in a picture, so that you will understand that those kind of PEMF devices are even dangerous for you because they emit dirty electricity. And this is something we cannot tolerate because we want to do something good with PEMF. We want to make people healthy. We want to help people to get rid of their problems. We want to get people more energetic, and so on and so on. And you can't do this with a PEMF device, which might emit a PEMF signal, but which is not, in any case, a controlled signal in terms of coming from a really, really physical pulse generator. And this is very important to understand. So yeah, we have got already questions. I will take the questions later on, and then we have some science-based properties, and mostly we talk about resonance and coherence. Resonance is very simple. So that means if you send out a message or a signal or a frequency, which frequency means nothing else than content of information, and you have to make sure, if you want to create something with this frequency, that it is received by the receiver and understood so that the receiver can deal with it. And this is what we call resonance. And that's the reason, if you, for example, use a smartphone, like I have one here, which you can probably see a little bit, and you put it in on your upper spine, and even if you can measure a PEMF field coming out of that smartphone, it will not do good. You know, you will not benefit from it in terms of pain relief or whatsoever. So why is that? Well, because the emitted PEMF field of a smartphone does not resonate with your body in a good way, and therefore you don't feel any beneficial effect. So the resonance capacity and the resonance effect is very, very important when we look on PEMF fields. And also the coherence. This is something which is, in my opinion, the most important and which is often misunderstood. Because coherence, in simple terms, means that if you combine a lot of properties together in a single information, which we do when we apply PEMF, because we have a certain waveform, we create a certain intensity, we apply certain frequencies, we do this with specific mechanic properties, like we said, coils, how they placed, how many windings they have. We run this whole thing through electronics, mostly intelligent electronics. So you have to create a clear, pure pulse using a computer, a pulse generator. You have to use a very precise operating system to create this very, very pure signals. And then, you know, you have to make sure that the whole signal you compose also reaches the receiver so that it creates a positive resonance. And getting all these properties together in a intelligent and in the most effective form, this is what we call coherence. And this symphony of these single properties together, those are the ones, they finally define the quality and the effectiveness of a PEMF device, and not one property of it. So if somebody tells you, yeah, but my system has a higher intensity output, that doesn't mean anything in terms of whether this is more beneficial or less beneficial than the one you have with a lower intensity, because you also have to look to the other properties which we have displayed here. And only then you are able to somehow start comparing this kind of fields. So that's very, very important to understand. So I give you some ideas about existing waveforms in PEMF devices. And I can tell you straight away, all PMF systems which still use a sine wave, they are already outdated. Why is it? Well, it's very simple. It's applied physics. A sine wave does per se nothing else than creating and transporting one frequency at a time, one information at a time. So think about this. If you want to create a PMF signal and you want to expose the whole body and you want to make sure that you create the highest possible resonance effect so that each of your 70 trillion cells will start resonating with this signal or with this frequency, you have to make sure that you not only apply one information, but many, many different information content, many, many different frequencies. So if you do this with a sine wave, by physics, it would take a long, long time to carry all these single information at a time from the sender to the receiver. Eventually, after hours, days, weeks, depending on how many frequencies you want to apply or you want to carry, you will probably succeed, but it just takes a long, long time. And that's why this kind of approach, if you use a sine wave, I would still design PMF devices with sine wave if I want to address very, very specific areas. There is for sure some science out where sine waves create a very specific effect, for example, for release of endorphins, just making an example. But if you want to use PEMF as a holistic, as a body which you would like to address the whole organism, because you want to do good for each of your 70 trillion cells, then the sine wave is not the waveform state of the art anymore, because it's just too simple, and it would take a long, long time to create all these single frequencies, one frequency at a time, and then transfer it from the sender to the receiver. And then we have the other two classical physical waveforms. By the way, that's also a thing. You know, you have on one hand, you have the waveforms which are mentioned and which are scientifically proven by physics, and those are the ones you see here. There are more. We have also trapezoidal frequencies. We have triangle waveforms, which also some of the PMF devices or some of the studies represent them. But the most established ones are the ones you see here in PMF devices for home use. So we concentrate on these three different waveforms. And then we have the square wave. The square wave is scientifically quite researched. So there's a lot of papers out which are studies which are done with the square wave. Also, the famous NASA study is done with square wave, or I say it wrong. The results from the NASA study are most astonishing with the square wave, whereas, for example, the sine wave does not give any good results in this study, which points to the fact that probably square waves are more efficient. And to me, it makes sense because a square wave does not only apply one frequency at a time, it applies a frequency with all its even overwaves. So that's already a bundle of information within the same time than a sine wave would need to transport one single information at a time. And also from the structure, if you look at how a square wave looks like, you know, you can see the power increases much more quicker than with a sine wave, and then it stays on the peak for a certain time, and then it immediately falls. And these steep rise and immediate fall times, they create a high level of induction, which seems to excite the cellular structure more effectively comparing to a quite boring and not so dynamic sine wave. And that's why square wave is, for example, built in our local applicators, which you can find with the Omnium 1 and the IMRS Prime in the pillow or the spot for both units. And we use it for area application and for punctual application. And from almost 30 years of experience, we have the best feedback when it comes to pain relief, when it comes to increasing local blood circulation, when it comes to increasing local endorphin exposure, which is also creates pain relief, then the square wave is the state-of-the-art waveform, which we believe has to be used for a local or a punctual application. And if you want to talk to the whole body with a PEMF signal, then we believe that the so-called Sawtooth waveform, it's called because it looks a little bit, you can see it on the picture here, like a sawtooth, that is the most effective waveform. Why? Because with the Sawtooth waveform, we have a physical waveform which is capable of transporting a lot, many single frequencies, you know, within the same or within a very short time frame. In other words, we can pack a lot of different content onto that signal, and you can see this here with this little waves here. Those are all single information in frequencies, and they are loaded on this created waveform. And then, you know, once it's like in a backpack, once the backpack is full, you know, it will be transported to the receiver, unloaded, and in one time, in one very short time frame, a lot of single different information will be unloaded and exposed to the receiver. So that creates a very high resonance potential. And that makes sure that as many as possible cells from your organism will eventually resonate with it. And here I have to tell you, because we always think that everything is researched until to the last detail, that everything is already validated. But there is still a black hole. What we don't understand nowadays is how many cells are really answering to that kind of signal, because there is no evidential research which clearly tells you, for example, that a hair cell needs X amount of frequency, a liver cell needs this kind of frequency, 17 hertz, the hair cell 5 hertz, and so on and so on. I know that there are websites out where the companies claim that they know which kind of frequencies our organs are vibrating, and by exactly applying these frequencies, the specific organs are resonating with it. This is, again, BS. There is no science out about this. You know, we are still in the dark. We don't know by evidence what kind of frequencies are really understood by each of our 70 trillion cells. So what we're going to do is we take a different approach. And it is also physics, applied physics. We are using probability. And utilizing probability means that you should create as many single information as possible in order that when you transmit them to the receiver, that they have more to digest and hopefully more to understand. And the stuff that they don't understand, they don't resonate with it anyway. So the more frequencies the more information you throw out to the receiver, you know, the higher the probability that the receiver will understand this. And that's very important to understand. And physically, the Sawtooth waveform is the waveform which is capable of creating the most single frequencies at a time. And that's why it is the waveform which we use for our whole body math. And we even refined that sawtooth, and we created a triple sawtooth. So we created a pulse bundle, a bundle of single pulse packages, put them together in one package, and sent that at a time from the coil, from the copper coil to the organism, to you when you lie on it. And that the result is that we increase the probability of creating resonance. And even if we don't know it 100%, how many of your 70 trillion cells at the end will resonate, we know one thing for sure, that we use the best physics science with utilizing a waveform which is capable to emit the most single frequencies at a time. And a triple sawtooth waveform is very, very difficult to create. And that's why 99% of the other systems, they don't offer it, because the people who are developing these devices, they simply don't know how to create it. And it's not a joke to create a triple sawtooth, a pure triple sawtooth wave. This is high-end engineering, and this requires a lot of knowledge, a lot of testing, a lot of refining, and it also requires high-end electronics and pulse generators who are capable of creating these signals, these very complex signals. And most of the other devices, they don't even are able to create a pure sine wave, because most of them, they don't even have a pulse generator built in. And this is something you need to know about all this. And like I said, I don't wanna just praise our systems in terms of that we are the best, but I want to explain to you what we are doing in order to make the theoretical and physically best PEMF device based on the science we have available, and based on our 30 years of experience, what we are doing with this. You know, and this is very, very important, that this kind of knowledge is arriving at your brains, and that you're going to share this with the people, because over time, the more information like this is out, the less is the chance that all this anecdotal information will survive on the web, because this is the real information. This is the physical stuff, and this can all be validated, because it's applied physics, and physics can be validated and can be understood. Maybe not by you, not for sure, not 100% by me, but when it comes to prove it, it can be validated, and that's the important thing. And I mentioned it already. For example, when you look at the waveform, in order to create these induction, this transport from the sender to the receiver, this force you create, you know, that's the most critical component of a PEMF device, because no PEMF device will do any good if the signal cannot be transmitted with a certain force, so that the receiver can create an action out of it, you know. And if you look at this little animation on the slide here, this is how you, for example, using a pulse generator, how you're going to transform for example, a triangle signal or a sine wave into a sawtooth. And this can be only done, what you see right now with this animation, where you start with one frequency, and then suddenly you create many frequencies within the same time frame, and then apply it to the or expose it. This can be only done if you have a built-in precise computer-controlled pulse generator. If you don't have this built in, you will never ever be able to create such a waveform. And these sharp rise and very quick fall times, they are crucial for the induction force. for the transportation of the signal from the sender to the receiver, you know? And there's a lot of science out. There is a word which is used a lot together with this kind of effect, which is called ion replacement. The ion replacement in the body. You know, this is something you want to achieve if you want to do good with a PEMF device. The greater the ion replacement, the greater the effect of kicking the butts of the ions and keep them moving around the cell because it increases the membrane potential. This is defining the biological effect of a PEMF device. And the greater the ion replacement, the stronger the biological effect, you know? And those triple sawtooth or square waves, they are by far more effective than a simple sine wave or any, of course, also any static magnet, because a static magnet has not even a frequency. And that's why all the benefit you can create with a static magnet, you can only create with the intensity. And that doesn't work sustainably, because once the body gets used to the intensity, it does not react on it anymore. There is no resonance anymore. You can leave your static magnet for hours and days and weeks on the same spot. Nothing will happen anymore because the body gets used to it and there is no frequency. So there is no signal which attracts the cells in the body to resonate with it. So that's very important to understand. So let's look on the intensity, also known as field strength. You know, we know that electromagnetic intensity is described as so-called flux density, and the value is in Tesla. It's named after Nikola Tesla, which we all know and heard of him. Great guy who not only brought electricity to us, but also brought a lot of wisdom and a lot of science when it comes to electromagnetic energy. And we know from studies in the 70s, in the 80s, it's all evident, it's all there, it all can be validated, that there is a certain biological window of electromagnetic intensities and frequencies, and only if those properties are within that window, so again, we speak about coherence, so only if these properties are coherent, they fit in that window, and then the body starts responding to it and resonating with it. And like I said, we know from research that the low intensities, speaking about of intensities within even lower or equal to the electromagnetic field of the Earth, they are most compatible when it comes to resonating effects with human cells. And that's why we decided, based on this, again, based on this science and based on this validated knowledge, to create PEMF devices which are within that intensity spectrum. And if you look at the studies which are out now about PEMF, we have about I would say about 2,500 clinical studies about PEMF, which are published in certain acknowledged libraries, and which also have a study design which more or less qualify for a clinical evaluation. And you can see a lot of studies are done with very, very low intensities. I remember there was a guy, his name was Sandik. He did some studies with PEMF and Parkinson patients. And interestingly, he published some papers where he saw and experienced and recorded the best effects of PEMF on Parkinson patients, specifically talking about tremor reduction and making the people more calm, keeping the people mobile within a intensity range of picotesla. And picotesla is about still 1,000 times lower than microtesla. So it seems that high intensity not necessarily means that you have a high benefit. Again, it's all about how these properties play together and how they align to each other, how coherent are they composed in order to create this beneficial effect in summary. And a high intensity per se doesn't mean that you have a high benefit. And this is something what people need to understand when they look on PEMF. And this is also very, very falsely published and marketed on the web, because I know many, many companies, they tell you that low intensity does nothing to you and you need to work with high intensity levels and stuff like that. This is just simply BS again. It's not true. It's all about the coherence. It's all about how all these single properties are fitting together in order to create the highest beneficial effect. You know, we have medical devices where high intensity is necessary to create an effect. The last topic here on this slide talk about MRI, magnetic resonance imaging. Magnetic resonance imaging, we don't use it, it's PMF, but we don't use it for therapeutics. We use it for diagnostics. And in order to do that, you know, this kind of technology and those kind of units, they need to apply very, very high intensities in order to change or alter the molecular structure within your body, and so composing a picture out of it. And those units, they often emit a field strength between 1.5 to 3 Tesla. You always think 1.5, 3, that's not a lot. But we talk about a 3 Tesla, for example. This is a magnetic field intensity, which is about 100,000 times stronger than the average electromagnetic intensity 1 centimeter above the surface of our whole body mass. So maybe you now realize that it's not so funny to lie in this MRI system for a long time, because the electromagnetic exposure is very, very, very high and is also very, very dangerous in terms of that it can create also harmful effects. So then we have the frequency. You know, I mentioned it already. The body responds always best to its own frequencies. So a resonance effect, if, for example, I said the lung cell vibrates with 17 hertz, obviously, if you apply 17 hertz, the lung cell will recognize this frequency and resonate with it. But I also said that we don't know perfectly well which organ vibrates with which frequency. But we know, for example, that according to published study, according to science, that there is also a biological window of human cell frequencies, roughly between 0.5 and 30 hertz. And this seems to be the window where cells mostly resonate with frequencies exposed to. So the thing here is, if we want to create a beneficial effect, we would probably have to apply frequencies within that range. And we do this using triple sawtooth waveforms, because they produced the most possible harmonics out of a single frequency based on science and physics. And those high amount of harmonics, they increase the probability of resonance. And that's why the formula which I put there is quite simple, and probably can remember this. The amount of resonance is defined by the frequency spectrum times the probability. So R is F times P. So if you want to have a very, very high resonance property, then you have to make sure that the frequency spectrum, which is applied in the same time, is high, because this will multiply the probability of resonance. And yeah, and this kind of triple sawtooth waveform is unique. I don't know any system in the world which uses exactly the same waveform than we do. I know one system which uses a sawtooth waveform. That's the QRS system, by the way, but we tripled it. So we have 3 times more harmonics when we apply the signal than any other system, including the QRS system. And that's why I can definitely claim that IMRS prime and Omnium 1, which by the way emit exactly the same properties when it comes to the defining PEMF field, they are the most sophisticated waveforms. And we also use the highest quality copper coils, uninsulated copper coils, solid, which are, by the way, very expensive. And that's why most of the competitors, and I know not one who uses the same coil structure than we do, with the same diameter of the wire and the same quality of pureness of the copper, to make sure that the generated frequency and the generated impulse is pure and is 100% controlled in terms of its informational content. And that's only SBS, that's only IMRS prime and only Omnium 1. So here's a picture. Below you see the solid copper coils. This is exactly what we use in our systems. By the way, in the whole body mat, like I said, we have 6 copper coils divided in 3 pairs, one at the foot, one in the middle of the body, and one at the head neck area. And we have an increasing amount of windings from the head to the toe. So that means the pair of coils, which is in the head neck area, has the lowest amount of windings. Why? Because we are mostly sensitive, because our entire neurological system is here. You know, we have the upper spine with a lot of nerves inside, and that's why we apply a more gentle field in this area. And then we increase the wires towards the middle of the body, which is the second pair in the middle of the whole body mat. And at the bottom of the whole body mat, which is not the side where the wire is coming out, where the wire is coming out, it always has to be placed on the head neck, because there is where the coil pair is with the lowest amount of windings. So what I want to tell you is that our applied electromagnetic field is not only applied in a pure form using these kind of copper coils, which you see here on the bottom of the picture. It is also defined by an increasing electromagnetic field from the head neck area towards the feet. And this is also, to my understanding and to my knowledge, unique. I don't know any other company who is doing that. The question is always why you did that. Well, we mimic the electromagnetic field, how we get it exposed from our Mother Earth. Because when you walk over the surface of the Earth, you know, the electromagnetic field is stronger at the feet. And of course, because the further you go away from the sender, the less strong it becomes. So, you know, the electromagnetic field of the Earth becomes weaker away from the Earth's surface. And that's why the field is weaker at the head and it's stronger at the bottom. And we mimic that and put that into our whole body mats. And here on top, for example, you see how the coils look when it's mesh wire. Believe it or not, this is, I did a surgery on a beamer system, and this is how they look inside. It's a very, very cheap speaker cable. It's insulated with plastic, and inside is not even copper. I don't know what it is. It's probably steel or whatsoever. So there comes another point in place. You know, copper is the metal with the lowest self-resistance. So that means if you run current through a copper wire, you have less resistance, so you get more power out when the electromagnetic field is gained around that wire. If you use an insulated metal wire, which of course also carries current, but because it has a much higher self-resistance, so that means a lot of current is eaten by the material, and that leads to the fact that the induction rate, so the force which you can create with such a coil, is by far less than the force which you can create here. And then again, you know, look at these websites. Look at if you see pictures where they actually show the coil and not tell you, we have copper coils built in, the best in the world. You know, any website always tell that they are the best. but they never show what they have inside, you know? And as long as they don't show, don't believe it, because if you have nothing to hide, you can show it, you know? And we do that because we have nothing to hide. Very simple. But I didn't see any of these pictures from other websites, but they give you the nicest word what they have built in, you know, and in fact, they don't. And that makes a PMF device not comparable anymore to one of our devices, because they are out of the game, because one of the properties is either not disclosed, or they use stuff like this, which at the end, it will never, ever give you the same results than what you see here below. I think that makes sense, and it should be clear for everybody. And I would be happy if you would start sharing this more with your prospects, with your people, because that will at the end lead to the fact that people understand why they should look for a true PMF device and not one of these cheap and fake copycats. And I mentioned that the applicator architecture. So why did we do? Oh, oops, sorry, I'm now here. Why did we do this? You know, why this kind of increasing field from the head to the toe? Well, because it works since 30 years. Because we got the best and most beneficial and fastest result with this kind of architecture. And that's the reason why we do it. Sometimes you don't need science. Sometimes you just find or define your proof of concept with the feedback from the users you get, which is also kind of scientific, because of course it's not a controlled study in terms that you have a controlled environment, that everything is recorded. But if you have the feedback from 1.2 million users over 30 years, and they all tell you that it works perfect for them, why you should change that? Why you should change anything? Makes no sense, you know? And I was always afraid to change certain basic things which we implemented in our system, whereas the coil architecture is one of them. So we will probably never change the idea of increasing an electromagnetic field from the head to the toe, because it's a natural background to it. We will probably never change to work with uninsulated solid copper coils. We will probably never change to invest a lot of money in purity and not use some insulated cheap stuff, because we know it's not good for the signal and it will disturb the signal and it will make it less beneficial than it is nowadays. So those are the things, they will not change. And there is no reason to change anything, because there is no new science out which tells us to make it better as it is right now. And here is a very, very interesting picture, and very something, it is related to something which you're going to see a lot in public or when you use the systems. And what you see here on the picture on top is a sine wave. And the sine wave on top is generated with a computer controlled pulse generator, a so-called frequency generator. And the sine wave below is a sine wave which is created by just hacking the incoming current into different pauses. And this is how it looks like. And what you see here, what is not clear, this green sine wave, this is dirty electricity. And if you have a PMF system which is not equipped with a precise pulse generator, or not a pulse generator at all, which, by the way, I would say 80% of all PMF devices you find online, they don't have a built-in pulse generator. What they simply do, they just hack the incoming 50 or 60 hertz. It depends a little bit where you live. In Europe or in North America or in Asia or in Australia, you have 50 or 60 hertz, which is the carrier frequency of the current from the wall, you know. So if you want, for example, create a frequency of 6 hertz, You just need to stop the 60 hertz every 10 seconds. And then you get 6 hertz. And did I say it right? 6 hertz, 60 seconds, 60 hertz. No, yeah. And if I stop it in between for 10 times, I get 6 hertz. So you can create 6 hertz like you see it on top with the sine wave, or you can also create 6 hertz, which would definitely be detected as 6 hertz, as the green sine wave below. The difference is the green sine wave below will carry just simply dirty electricity. And people who are lying on an applicator without a pulse generator, where the incoming current is just hacked in pieces, they will be exposed with dirty electricity. And this is going to happen all the time, you know, and nobody talks about that. And this is important that you understand this. I see here in the chat, Beamer also have 100% flexible whole body metal. Of course, because they don't have solid copper coils, because they have cheap mesh wire and you can bend it because you cannot destroy it. And then, of course, you can bend the mat. But this is not the approach. The approach is to have a good coil, because a good coil creates a good signal in terms of its induction rate and its transmission rate. So this is what you see on this picture right now with the electronics. It's very, very important, you know. For example, the IMRS Prime is completely programmed within the Windows IoT. This is the engineering software of Windows. It's very, very precise. And if you ever open a connector box of the IMRS Prime or the control unit, you will see a very, very sophisticated and complex circuit board inside, because you need this kind of electronics built in your hardware in order to create pure signaling. And this pure signaling is crucial for a beneficial PMF device. And whether you see it or not from outside, this is what makes a PMF system a true PMF system. And this is what a lot of cheap copycats just cover with not disclosing information. And this is not fair, because in this specific case, you expose people with dirty electricity. And this is something we cannot support, because we are a company which deals with health and not which makes people sicker by exposing them to one of our cheap products, not us, you know? So a lot of PMF devices out in the market are harming their user because they apply dirty electricity. And you know, there is no compliance. They don't even use compliance. If you would use compliance, if you would put your system in a laboratory, if you would do a CB test, which summarizes about 80, 90 laboratory tests. Swiss Bionic does this test with their devices. We have a CB certificate. We can always provide you with this, you know. So our systems are safe and secure and efficient by validated information, by third-party laboratory tests, and by carrying all these certificates. You know, if a system provider does not disclose this information, what I told you until now, you know, you should become already suspicious, because something is stinky, something is wrong with these kind of units. So the resonance, you probably remember this synchronization of the 30 metronomes. So this guy here, this is the magnetic field. This was kicked in first, and now you can see that all the other metronomes are randomly kicked on. What does this test show us or tell us is very simple, because it tells us the principle of resonance. So how are we going to explain it? Now you can see that all these metronomes, they are vibrating quite randomly within their own frequencies. But you also see that over time, they will all become synchronized with the one which was initially turned on by the guy who used the finger on it. And this is how I always try to explain resonance. If a lot of receivers are tuning into an information which a sender sends out and which is at the end understood by the receiver. And think about this analogy. Every metronome is representing a cell in your body. And this one behind is the PEMF device. So if you get exposed to a PEMF field with a certain frequency, where all your cells are capable of resonating with it, they will, over a certain period of time, tune into this frequency you send out. And you can see now, after maybe 2 minutes, right now the video is 1 minute and 50 seconds, most of the cells are already tuning into that carrier frequency. And of course, there's always that one guy, you can see here on the right side in the second row. It's still totally off sync because it didn't yet happen, but it will maybe take another 30, 40 seconds. And then this little fellow cell here will also start tuning into this exposed frequency. So you can see now it's not yet, still flipping over, but you can see. And this analogy will help you. And the same happens when you are exposed to a whole body mat, that, you know, within that 8, 16, 24 minutes you lie on it, all these cells, they will start resonating. All the cells will understand that information. And we assume it's a lot because we work with a lot of single frequencies at a time, you know, that they will eventually resonate with that kind of sender information. And this is what we want to achieve in order to create a holistic cellular effect in our entire organism, increasing membrane potential. And this increase of membrane potential leads to a better absorption of all the nutrients, all the vitamins, all the oxygen. And this leads to a better digestion within the mitochondria. And this leads to a better production of ATP. And this leads to a distribution of more energy, which then can be used to strengthen the immune system, to strengthen the healing forces inside the body, and so on and so on. The principal goal is resonance. And if you create resonance, you will make sure that all bodies are, or all cells in your body, they are doing what you want them to do. And this is the holistic effect of PEMF. Pretty cool stuff, and this explains resonance. And at the end, we have the coherence. I said it already, the situation when all of the parts of something, they fit together in a natural or reasonable way. So that makes a PEMF device a perfect PEMF device, bringing all these properties in one harmonic symphony and then apply it with a very high state of coherence. This is what we want to achieve. If the properties of a PEMF device cannot be objectively verified, the system, in my opinion, is considered a pretense of false facts, and it's therefore junk. Sorry. It has nothing, absolutely nothing, zero to do with true PEMF. And this is what I really don't like about this kind of information which is flying around on the internet, that all these companies, they make totally false claims just to mislead the people who read this, just to force them literally to buy a system from them, you know. And this is something, this has nothing to do with what PEMF is used for and what's intended to do. PEMF is 100% applied physics, and PEMF is science. So if you want to utilize PEMF for health benefit, you have to respect and apply the science behind it. And if you don't do this, you don't create a true PEMF device, you create a fake, cheap, and in many cases, even harmful and dangerous copy. And this is something, it cannot happen anymore. And because the internet is very hard to control and there is no compliance police, the only way we can work a fight against it is if we tell the people the truth, if we educate ourselves, and if we share this information. Very, very important, you know. And you know, those are those gadgets here are really, really, really crazy stuff. You know, here we have a system which is now very popular in Europe, Vittori, and they make all kinds of claims like, of course, it's always cheap. Now you save 800 and we will look on the prices. This system is not even worth 200, and I will tell you later on why. So here they say magnetic field therapy, also known as pulse electromagnetic field therapy, is an alternative therapy. And then the electromagnetic field generated by the Vittori crystal mat ranges from 1 to 30 hertz and is also used in in-house frequency compositions. What does that mean? In-house frequency compositions. So you cannot physically compose frequencies. Of course, you can do everything, but not with applied and scientific physics. So even this text is already controversial and misleading because nobody knows what that means, you know. And then here is the best, the Vittori crystal mat is the perfect means for this because in addition to a whole range of different frequencies, it also offers a Schumann program that emits exactly 7.83 hertz and thus imitates the frequency of the Schumann resonance. So how does that work? So you run a program and then suddenly there is another program coming from somewhere, which is, I don't know, does it have to be turned on, used separately, or does this program simply kick into the existing program and miraculously create suddenly additional 7.83 hertz? Well, how does that work physically? I don't know. You know, it's not work like this. It's a text which somebody copied and pasted and altered with the personal touch from somewhere, and then it creates the impression that this is something really cool and something really good, you know. And that's why, you know, this is so weird what kind of information is out there, you know. So I wrote an email to this company. It's in German, so I didn't translate my questions, but I will tell you. I very friendly sent an email to this company and I asked to give me some information about the properties of their PEMF device because I could not find that on the website. I could not find that on the owner's manual, you know, and actually we got this from one of our representatives who is, I think so, also on the call today. So asking for what kind of copper coils you are using. Are you using pure copper coils and how many coils you have inside your mat and so on and so on. We ask about the field strength intensities, microtesla. Do you change them? Do you have a magnetic field which is equal on the whole body mat? Which kind of waveform you are using? Which kind of frequencies are you using? Polarity and so on and so on, you know? And then we got the answer, and the answer, I translated it for you. It's, dear Mr. XXX, unfortunately, I'm not allowed to answer such detailed technical questions. The reason is compliance and protection against copying. I very much hope that you will understand this. You can find the freely available information on our website, which is nothing, by the way, because the reason why we couldn't find information was the reason why we asked them to disclose what they do. So this is the answer you get. So what does it tell you? Forget about this company, because either she doesn't know what she's talking about, Miss Chen is here, or the company is creating a fake, cheap, and useless PEMF device, which is absolutely the case, you know? And that's why I don't understand how people buy systems from such a company. And the only reason why people do that, because they probably don't ask these questions. And why they don't ask these questions? Because they don't have the background to be able to ask these questions. And they rather believe what the websites will tell them, you know? And there is a similar matter. It looks quite similar. You probably know this company, you know? It's called Pro Multiwave 5 Therapy System, you know? And then some text here, which I copied out. Its key feature is the programmable multi-wave PMF feature, allowing you to set the PMF wave type, square or sine wave frequency, 1 to 30 hertz intensity, up to 3000 milligauss, which is quite high, and more. Using an advanced signal generator, this allows you to choose virtual. This is a very cool sentence. Listen. Using an advanced signal generator, which should be built in this little tiny control unit here. It's BS. There is no pulse generator built in at all. This allows you to choose virtually almost any type of PMF signal to perfectly suit your needs. So what does this sentence tell you? It tells me nothing. It tells me that I can choose whatever I want, whatever kind of PMF signal which suit my needs. How do I know which PMF signals suit my needs? You know? And then on top, we have 12 preset advanced programs that take you through a variety of different PMF frequencies and intensity, perfect for any time of the day. This is just marketing talk, and it doesn't mean anything, but it sounds really good, right? You know? And then comes made with 8 high quality copper PMF coils. Where are these coils? I don't see them nowhere. You know, I don't see any quality copper coils. Nothing is disclosed. You know, our PMF coils produce a pure crisp signal and are distributed throughout the mat to provide ideal magnetic field throughout the entire surface of the mat, extending our far enough to over your entire body, and so on, you know. And then very fashionable nowadays, combining everything what you know about any kind of therapy which somehow fits in the electromagnetic field. So we have not only PMF, we also have gemstones, which create far infrared radiation, which is the biggest BS I ever heard, because a gemstone doesn't create anything. You know, a gemstone is a dumb piece of materia which is sitting on this whole body mat and does not create anything. The only thing what a gemstone is probably doing is absorbing heat from you when you lie on it, and then maybe reflect it with a different radiating frequency, because the material of the gemstone does probably alter the incoming signal and then change it to something different and reflect it back. But a gemstone does not actively create far infrared. That's BS. That's a lie. That's misleading. You know, this is those little gemstones. They are just glued onto this a piece of crap. I must say it. You know, and just to, you know, it's a very cheap way of claiming that you create far infrared radiation, which is simply not true. You know, the gemstones don't do that. And then they claim anything about 5 to 14 micron. And, you know, you have to read. And then, of course, red light. Red light is very, very popular right now. And whenever you put somewhere 630 or 660 nanometers, people go nuts already, because, this is the one, this is the wavelength which I need to create an effect with red light. Well, it's not so simple. To create a good effect with red light, you need specific LEDs for that, preferably multi-chip LEDs with a certain strength, so that the radiation, when it comes out, also has the power to induce something in the receiver, and so on and so on. But here, little LEDs, they will just be put on on top of the gemstones, and then they claim it that they have red light and all that kind of stuff. Of course they have it, but not in a way. There is no coherence. Because how does this work together? Where's the science behind it? Where does it stand that all this stuff does not interfere with each other? It's just marketing crap, and the price is still high, you know, from all this stuff, and therefore, you know, this is just fake. It's a fake device here, and I'm 99% positive that this little control unit here will not be equipped with a pure pulse generator, and therefore it will emit dirty electricity, period. So if you lie on this, if you own one of this, good luck. So what I did, here is the truth. I have two links. I hope I can show this to you now. I have the websites, hold on, here. Can somebody confirm if the link didn't change, so that if the link changed, so that we have that we see the browser? Okay, thank you. So this is the truth about that device. This is a company in China. You can find them on Alibaba.com and just look for PMF-Met. So if you want to buy the system which I just showed you, go there, because there you get it for $189 and not for $2,495. And this is exactly the same system. You know, it just has a different design. You say, it's not the same. Look, it's black with the yellow dots. Well, this company, if you scroll a little bit down, you can see, here you can show how they are made. And you can see this is our fellow, which we just saw on the website picture for $2,495. This is the way how they make it. By the way, this is the so-called gemstones. This is how they glue it on. This is how they saw it. And this is considered to be a PMF device. They will be clipped here at the end, you know. And then here we go. You can have it in any color you want, with any logo on it, with all perfect electronics built in, as you can see here. And if you want to create your own PMF company and to sell your own system, I can share the manufacturer here with you. They do it for you in all kinds of colors, in all kinds of possibilities, with far infrared, with gemstones, with whatever you want to have built in, at a very, very low price of $189 if you order just 1 to 9 sets. And the price goes down from 100 sets to 128. You know, the price, how it's gonna sold, it's what do you say, between $900 and $2,500. So that's the case. And then I found something which is also very interesting, because sometimes we get confronted with these so-called high-intensity devices. One of the big ambassadors of high-intensity devices, he was not always from the beginning, but he is now, because he has probably some endorsement deals, is Dr. Pavluk. You know him, he's very prominent on the website, and he's claiming nowadays that low-intensity devices, they don't do anything to your body, so you have to buy high-intensity devices. And you probably know of all these high-intensity devices. They are sold between 6,000 and even 25, 30,000 US dollars. Well, where do they come from? Well, I found it. This is a device which is very common, and it's often sold in the United States and in Canada. It's a high-intensity device. It's a perfect Chinese copy, probably exactly the same how the original was manufactured in the US. And you can buy this system for $17.99. And these systems are sold between, like I said, between 10 and 25,000 US dollars. And you say, oh no, this is not the one because the one I have is blue or whatsoever. Well, this company makes it again in any color you want, because they do nothing else. You can see it here with whatever you want, with your name on it, slow loop, fast loop, however they call them. And if you intend to buy a high intensity device, go again to Alibaba.com, type in PMF, you will come up with one of these systems. And if you order it here, you get it shipped at a price with a fraction of what you have to pay from one of the companies. they market it in North America, because this is specifically North America. It's not very popular and common in Europe, because we already figured out that these systems, they harm more than they do good. So that's also very important that you know about that. And let's have a look again. Where is my presentation? Oops. I think I have no more slides anyway. So yeah, this is more or less what I wanted to share with you in terms of what all has to be yeah, you have to become aware of when you are determining whether a PEMF device is good or bad, is efficient or not efficient, and sometimes even harmful. And I really, really want you to take this to heart and consider it, because it's very, very, very important that you become aware of this. So I still try to okay, let's see if I can go back to I don't find my presentation anymore sometimes. It's weird with Zoom. Hold on. I see the presentation, but I cannot. No. Sorry if I get stuck here right now, but I don't find my presentation anymore. Here. Else here. No. It's gone. Sorry, it's gone. I have no specific slide in terms of the PEMF devices to share with you. What I still wanted to share with you, and I know I had it in my last slide, was that I'm going on a North American tour again, mid of May till end of May. We have a couple destinations. I will start in Toronto on May 17th. With a lecture and a meeting. Then May 19th, we will be in Vancouver. It's a Sunday, together with our friends and the group around Dale Kobialko, who is also on the call today. Then 21st, we will be in Portland, 21st of May, with Diane Bass. 23rd of May, we will be in, what was it, 20? I must look, sorry. Don't do anything wrong. Here I am. So 21st was Portland, 23rd was Anthem in Arizona, and on Sunday, 25th of May, we will be in South California in Laguna Woods with Terry Willis, and I will publish the details to all the events with the upcoming April newsletter, first of April, so it will be not an April Fool's, so there will be real information about the specific details of the tour. And if you want to join us at one of the events, I would be very happy to meet and greet you there. I think we got some good stuff to share, some good new content. We will also have the possibility to dive a little bit deeper into all that, what we covered today. And I would love to meet you if you have the chance. Like I said, meet us in one of these locations. And 1st of April, we're gonna disclose all the specific information. So let's look. If you have some questions still, you can post them in the chat. And I go inside here. Let's have a look. There are many questions here. So here somebody said, yes, I wondered about a device which is called OliLife P50. They emit frequencies in the terahertz range. It's pretty scary. And it's Yoni, and he or she said, I researched as much as I could on the terahertz, and all info stated It causes damage by breaking apart your DND, which can lead to cancer. I directly ask a seller to provide the PMF range and the evidence terahertz are safe, and they avoided answering that question. Yes, of course, because there is no science, no good science out about the PMF devices in the terahertz range. I know that a certain very specific field of PMF, which is called RTMS, repetitive transcranial magnetic stimulation, which are handheld devices, and they used locally at the brain. They emit very high intensities and very high frequencies, but only for a short period of time and with a very specific intent of use. They are used mainly for people suffering from depression, and with pretty good results. But like I said, those units, they have to be in the hands of very skilled and educated people who know what to do with these kind of devices. They are definitely made for home use. And I think also systems which are vibrating in the terahertz range, they don't belong in the hands of home users, you know. The Beamer flexible body mat I already answered. There's a question, if there is metal in your body, can you use it? Yes, you can. Our systems, if you have screws, nails from surgeries inside your body still, there is no contraindication to use those areas of the body with our PMF devices. They will not do any harm to you. Made in China brands use ferrite rods. What is this? Cheap China brands say they have red light therapy, but what do they really use? Well, that's a good question, you know. What is a ferrite? A ferrite rod is a metal rod, which probably is a conductor because you can run current through it. What it really does with PMF, I have no idea. For sure, they will create somehow a magnetic field. I don't know, because I don't know any science or any engineering background why you would use this kind of design to create a beneficial PMF device. I cannot answer you, you know. What is the difference between far infrared with carbon fiber and compared to China brands that use wire encased in rubber? Well, I don't know about the wire encased in rubber, but I know that our carbon fiber wire emits a real far infrared radiation within that specific wavelength. We would like to have it between roughly 5 to 14 microns, because this is where we have the highest resonating effect. And we also have a very, very good and well-distributed radiation. So if you ever experience a hybrid session on a IMRS prime, you will feel that no matter where you lie on the whole body mat, that you get a very, very equal distribution of the heat. Obviously, it's always a little bit more warmer on the spots where you touch the applicator, because there is where the heat which is produced by your body, or the body temperature, is resonating with the carbon fiber even more. That makes it a little bit warmer. But overall, the distribution of warmth and radiation over the surface of the whole body applicator is very, very good. And in terms of wavelengths, carbon fiber is very precise in terms of its exposition. So that's very good. So we have the 2000 case studies. What devices were used during the studies? Was there a baseline physics used, and what do you expect the study would have had different results using your device? Well, basically, it is not crucial what kind of device you use for a study. What is crucial is what kind of properties this device is exposing. So the brand of a PMF device doesn't do anything in regards to whether a study is good or not. What a good study defines is that all properties, no matter which kind of brand was used, all properties are disclosed which were used in a study, because once this is done, then this is objective, validated information, and this can be compared. The problem with a lot of PMF studies is that not all of these information is disclosed. Sometimes the coil structure is not disclosed. They tell you everything about what kind of frequency they use, what kind of intensities they use, but they don't disclose, for example, what kind of coils, in which disposition they use it and stuff like that. But the brand of a device doesn't mean anything for a study. You know, one of the reasons, for example, the IMRS Prime is available in a so-called trial version. We usually give this specific software release, software tool, only for research. Why? Because the trial version of the IMRS Prime is nothing else. It's an open source frequency generator. Because we have a built-in precise frequency generator, we can also provide researchers with all the properties which define a pulse generator. And with the trial version, you can literally create any signal you want, because you have a pulse generator which gives you all the possibilities in terms of which kind of waveform you want to use, which kind of pulse, which kind of break in between the pulses, which kind of pulse packages you want to design. This all can be done with the trial version. And the trial version, the idea was just to add a specific tool for researchers so that they don't need to build prototypes whenever they want to make a study. They can use our system, but not the way we designed it, with the fixed waveforms we are using and you're applying, but with an open source pulse generator. So you are literally able to create any signal you want. So yeah, you can buy that system on Alibaba for around 200, yes. The cat likes the red light, of course. Cats are really curious. Sometimes they don't like the red light, some not. But all dogs like PMF. That's something I really know. Some company says they have a rolling wave. A rolling wave. I don't know what they could mean with this, because a wave cannot roll in terms of how it would look in an oscilloscope. So maybe one of these copy paste plus personal note, somebody created a rolling wave. Nothing does surprise me anymore. Why do certain PMF foot treatment devices cause the body to warm up? What danger is occurring here? Is it blood type dependent? I think the PMF devices which you put your feet on, which are, by the way, very, very popular in Asia. There are a lot of studios where people get tracked to, and they sit down, then they get all kinds of information about that while they're having their feet on this PMF device. I assume that the electromagnetic exposure in terms of its intensity is very high, which, if this is the case, the tissue will become warm. This is more or less the same effect. And when you have your smartphone and you talk forever, then your ear becomes warm because of the thermal resonance with the high frequency radiation. So with these devices, I assume they apply a very, very high frequency and also a very high intensity, which then leads to warm up the tissue. It is definitely not blood type dependent, because again, the combination of high intensity and high frequency creates a so-called thermal effect, which always creates a warming effect on a microorganism like human beings are, and is not dependent on the blood type. Somebody has the Mito Red Pad and recommend them, as it is third-party verified and a leader in that industry, like Swiss Bionics in the PMF industry. Well, yes and no, but if you go to Alibaba and you type in red light, then you probably will also find the manufacturer of the Mito devices, because they also come from China. But I leave this up to you. But what I must say, because I did some research as well with red light, the Mito systems, they at least disclose all their technical information, which is good because that makes them comparable, and at least they left a good impression to the person who asked this question here. Can it be used by one person at the same time, local spot and puncture spot? So you want to use, can it be used by one person at the same time, local spot? So you want to use two applicators in the same time on different spots? Yes, with the so-called split mode from the IMRS prime. If you possess this system or you have access to the system, it can be done. And you should not do a whole body application with a local application, because remember, we have two different waveforms, and if two different waveforms physically meet each other, they create chaotic overwaves. And this is something what we don't want. But if you want to use two local applicators on two different areas of the body, you can do this with the IMRS prime and with the so-called split mode. Thank you for this important webinar. For our Canadian reps, we are wondering how Sabine is doing, and please wish her a speedy recovery from all. Thank you, David and Roberto. I will forward this to Sabine, and we will inform you if something is changing in regards to her status. What about Chicago? Well, yeah, by the way, if you wish me, or if you want me to come to your area and maybe do a meeting, or you want to organize an event, then I would really ask you to send an email request to, we have an email address for that. It's inquiry@swissbionic.com, inquiry with inquiry@swissbionic.com. I will have access to this email address, and I will read these emails. And as you know, I do two tours per year. I do one in the spring and one in the fall. And if I know that there is an opportunity to open a new area, or we have some very active reps who really want to initiate something, please write me an email, and I will consider this and get back to you if I see a chance that I can do this, because we are obviously intrigued to expand our business. We still have a lot of white spots in North America where we are not present, and we definitely want to change this. And with all the trends are coming up with longevity and also the higher demand on our devices, I think it's a good time to really start actively marketing this kind of field, because it becomes more and more interesting for all the people outside. Not only, and this is what I like so much about the times right now, that people don't ask for PEMF only because they have health issues. A lot of people start asking to use PEMF for prevention and for longevity, which is a perfect modality. It fits perfectly within that range, and therefore I'm eager to really also put myself in place and help to support this, to widen the and spreading the information. So let me know, inquiry@swissbionic.com, and I will work on that and will let you know. Then we have Toronto. Thank you. Fantastic information. Thank you so much. Happy to hear that. Thanks for the feedback. Will your presentation tonight be accessible on company website? It will be accessible on your back office. You can log in. I will immediately, when we finish that, I will send the recording to our marketing department, IT department, and they will upload it. So I cannot talk and comment a lot about terahertz. I said it already because there was a question a little bit earlier. We have no far infrared with terahertz. We have far infrared with the proven and scientifically researched waveform window, which is between 5 and 14, 15 microns. This is where most of these FIR devices should vibrate in order to create a beneficial effect, you know. Can I send you an email? Yes, inquiry@swissbionic.com. Then we have some, again, claim, Olive, this is one of the terahertz devices, claims that cartilage has regrown in the knees and shown x-rays. Yeah, we have also studies for PEMF about that. A regrowing cartilage is a lot depending on the individual situation. So claiming that it always works is not serious information, and it's probably a sales pitch. But we see some results, but it's really, really individual. As you know, not every person is the same. And therefore, this also needs a very individual approach. From a scientific perspective, it makes total sense to utilize PEMF for this kind of condition. But whether it works and to which extent cannot be put in perspective right up front. It's very individual. Contraindications from Diane Walker. We know the three epilepsy, pacemaker, pregnancy, but I have recently heard that if you are using insulin pump or Fitbit, maybe you should not use the OmniMed, etc. That's not true. The exposure of our electromagnetic field intensity on the whole body med is maximum with the peaks about 100 microtesla. This does not interfere with any of these devices. And even insulin pumps or even pacemakers, it's still a contraindication by law. But the modern pacemakers, let's say the pacemakers which were built in during the last 10 years, they all have security programs. So even if they would interfere with external electromagnetic fields, they would not fail in function because they always have a backup. So, but still, we should not use it with a pacemaker because it's a contraindication by law. But anything else like a insulin pump or a digital wearable like a Fitbit or an Apple Watch or whatsoever, no problem. So what else we have? Just the people. Thank you. Hearing back from South Carolina. Yes, because I'll see how many people I can get together. Okay, thank you so much from Arizona. An education marketing video reps can use. Thank you for detailed explanations. Exactly, thank you. So, would using circle attachments be good for infection below teeth due to implant and root canals? How to use circle? Would using circle attachments? What is a circle attachment? In general, I can tell you, if you put a local applicator around your teeth, you have just great results in terms of pain relief and also in terms of faster wound healing. So this is the way how you apply PEMF with all kinds of dental problems. And usually you apply either the spot from both sides because you have two coils built in, but you can also put your head on the pillow, which then, you know, because electromagnetic field, they emit equally in all directions. So they will also cover your dental area here. And usually what you do if you want to treat something which is acute, for example, post-surgery, post-root canal, post implant, dental implant, then you usually use higher intensities because you are already in an acute stage. If you suffer from something chronic, which you want to calm down and which you want to improve healing and cleaning inside the dental area, then it's better to use lower intensities with longer duration, and vice versa. If it's something acute, you go on higher intensities, such as 100, 200, or 400 with shorter duration, 8 minutes, versus chronic, intensities between 10 and 50 maximum with 24 minutes. So can you use this PEMF along with earthing products simultaneously? I guess so, because earthing products are no active products in terms of actively emitting something. So my opinion, there is no interference and it can be used simultaneously. Organ transplant and blood thinners, it's also not a problem. If somebody got already an organ transplant, you should usually not use a PEMF device or any device or technology out of energy medicine until the transplant is accepted by the new owner, and until the bleeding is controlled with medication. After that, you can use it, no problem. A customer is asking about what patents Swiss Bionic Iris Pro. We have no patents, because this is also a big myth with a patent. You know, some companies, it's a very good question, thank you. Some company claim our signal is patented. What does it mean? It means nothing in terms of whether it's more beneficial or something. It just means it's property protected. So some PEMF companies, they claim we have a patent signal. So what? This does not mean anything in terms of beneficial. Everything which is proved by study in terms of physics and in terms of waveform, it cannot be patented at all. And I can tell you that 98% of all patents in regards to PEMF are expired already. So basically, I don't even know of one company who still has a valid patent when it comes to a signal. And if so, so what? It does not mean anything in regards to effectivity or efficiency of this signal. It just means that they created a paper which is a constructional or a physical explanation what kind of signal they created. I call them GMO, genetically modified signals, because you will not find them in physics, at least not in Newton's physics. But of course, because nobody uses it, you can patent them. But that's all. It's a patent. A patent has nothing to do with whether this is beneficial, efficient, or something. It's just protection of property, nothing else. Nothing to do with any medical evidence or whatsoever. Oh, you know, what additional modalities would be complementary to us with PEMF in a wellness spa setting? Oxygen is quite good because it accompanies each other. And of course, if you open your, if you strengthen your cellular structure, your membrane potential, and you take in oxygen at the same time, the oxygen will be absorbed much better. So, which then, you know, increases the effect of it. What else? There's so many you can implement right now. But I think in terms of energy medicine, you have to be a little bit careful, because whenever you use different technologies out of energy medicine, you have to make sure that they not interfere with each other. For example, far infrared and PEMF does not interfere. But for example, TENS, you know, if you have electric therapy and you combine that with PEMF, that interferes, because those two waveforms, they do something when they meet each other, which we then not can control anymore. And then we don't know if the whole thing together is still beneficial, or even if it cancels each other out. So we don't know that, you know. And that's why anything non-electromagnetic and active, you can always combine with PEMF. So can you put full mat under an airbed? Yes, you can, as long as the airbed is not equipped with any metal coils. and that's not a problem. And yes, I have a favorite oxygen. Oh no, I don't have a favorite. We have, you know, the thing is, in Europe, we have different brands or different brand names, so you won't find them in North America and vice versa. So I think for an oxygen therapy device, you have to really do your own research, and also maybe you find place locally where you can try one of them. They are increasing. So you know, if you wait a little bit longer, there is more chance to find somebody who owns one or a studio or whatsoever where you can experience that kind of thing. Red light therapy together with PEMF also works because these two frequencies, again, they do not interfere with each other. So that's a good point here also. Yeah, I think we are more or less through this. So I hope you enjoyed it. I say thank you to all of you. We had more than 100 people on this webinar, which I'm very happy. And I hope this information was valuable for you. I hope you will digest this, and I hope you will help us spreading the word in a correct and ethical way, so that we can somehow protect this very valuable topic and technology of PEMF, and bring this to the people in a way what it deserves. It's simple, a fantastic therapeutic approach which everybody can do in the comfort of their homes with a high level of security if you use the right PEMF system, and you create so many beneficial effects. And that's why I think it's very important to do that. I will come back here from time to time if I have a new topic in mind, which I feel eager to share with you. I will do that. And for now, I say thank you very much for being with me. I say have a nice day, because it's already Saturday in Australia and in Asia. Here it's 2 o'clock in the morning in Switzerland, so it's already Saturday. And I will say good evening to the East Coast of North America, and probably not good afternoon, but also early good evening to our West Coast people, LA, Arizona, Portland, and all the people from San Diego who were on the call. And always thank you so much. And like I said, check our newsletter 1st of April. If you want to visit me and to join me of one of our meetings or lectures, I would be happy to welcome you. Have a wonderful weekend. Stay healthy, pulse on, and again, thank you very much for being with me. Have a good night. Bye-bye.